Can I start off with approval for prior minutes?
I'll make
Supervisor Wild. Supervisor Bruno, thank you. I'll call a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. All right, we'll start right off with the airport agenda. First, for our actions, we have to amend resolution 384 of 2020. It's to remove a local match. Well, I'll let Kevin take this over because he knows more on that part of the resolution. So,
thank you, Supervisor McGowan. First resolution we have today is to amend resolution 384 of 2020. That resolution was to establish a capital project H402 for the airport snow removal equipment building. With the pandemic this year and the different funding acts that were passed, FAA passed the CARES Act, or the CARES Act was passed, and under that, AIP projects for airports were going to be funded 100%. So we no longer need the $33,860 for the local match. The FAA is going to fund 100% of the project.
so good news, Kevin. Thank you for bringing that. Does anybody have any questions?
We need a motion.
Did I bring a motion to bring this to the floor?
I'll make a motion if it's required.
Thank you, Supervisor Wild.
I'll second
Supervisor
it.
Bruno. Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Supervisor Suppler, I'll get you next. All right. So we have it on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. So moved. Discussion items. How those T-hanger constructions coming along, Kevin?
They're coming along very well. I actually have pictures that I'm going to have Scott pass out. He can take them around. I have pictures here for the T-hanger construction as well as the snow removal equipment building. The T-hangers, all the steel was put up in the last couple of weeks, and now they're going to start enclosing the hangars in the next couple of weeks. As far as the snow removal equipment building, you'll see if you pass by, there's concrete poured, but there's a couple areas where there's 14 high-foot walls of concrete. That's part of the SRE building that will house the sand that we use in the airport in the winter months. So with that being said, I'll give these to Scott and we can pass them around. Thanks, Scott.
Just so those who are reading here, that that's what the SRE is, and for anybody that might wonder out on Zoom, the SRE building construction is that snow remover equipment building. So, Kevin, we kind of talked briefly about this. What is the particulars of this sand? I'm just interested.
It's a very fine sand that they use at the airport. Typically at an airport, you don't want what they consider, it's called FOD on the airport, which is debris which could impact whether it's a jet engine or even a prop plane. So they use this very fine sand. As you all know, when we clean the runway for the airport, first we typically plow, and then after we plow, we typically brush it with the broom. That's if we get any ice whatsoever, that's where we start to use the sand, just to give some type of traction on the airport. We don't often use this sand. I can say probably in the last 5 years we've used it maybe once or twice, but it's just a very fine sand.
Is it like that Panama Beach sand? They're really really fine.
I've never been to
400 grit. All right. Okay, and the other one, how are we working out with the new airport manager?
That's the last thing I wanted to report for today. So our new airport manager's name is Robin Mapp. He comes to us from Colorado. He will be starting as of Monday. He's got a background in operations and security for airports. He's kind of run the gamut on airports from customer service, and he had a stint for a while as an assistant airport manager. Currently, he's at Aspen Pitkin Airport as the operations security manager, and he will start with us on Monday.
Well, that's great news, and I look forward to meeting him. So thank you, Kevin. I don't see any referrals or any pendings. Don, do we have anything on public comment?
Morning, Chairman McGowan. There's no public comment right now.
Well, thank you. All right, so we'll just quickly move right over to buildings and grounds. So under the action agreements, I have a notice to intent to fill a position for the custodian. Can I bring this to the floor?
Yeah, I'll make that motion, John Stroud.
Supervisor Stroud, Supervisor Sepler, thank you. Kevin?
So we actually have two positions here. The first one is a notice of intent to fill the position of a custodian. Our custodian actually has just been promoted. We had a job opening for one of our building maintenance workers, and the custodian put his name in for the position. He qualifies for the position, so he's going to move up to the building maintenance worker. So we're now to backfill the custodian position.
How's this position looking to fill? I mean, the nightmare out there is that nobody wants to work. The applications aren't coming in. Do we have some applications to look at, or?
We didn't have any. We had one application come in for the custodian, and actually the person called back this morning and spoke with my confidential assistant and basically said that they couldn't afford to reduce their income by that much. We do have a couple that were on the last testing list that Trish had provided me, so Scott's going to reach out to them today and see if we can get them in for an interview.
Typically, how long do we hang on to a custodian?
Typically, I would say for a very long period of time. But when something like this comes up where there's a promotion, then you're going to have somebody advance. Now, this position is the daytime position. It's not one of the nighttime positions. This is the position that we brought on last year. I guess it was last year or a little bit before last year due to the pandemic and having somebody during the day.
Right. Because the only reason I'm saying is, you drive around, you see the Burger Kings are hiring for $15 an hour, and I'm saying to myself, I just, I know we have a problem with that and with the cleaners, and, I mean, I hate to say that, but, really everything has just gone up, and to miss out on, some good people, that might be something we want to look into, and if the board is willing to. So can I,
6.
is that, you done, Kev?
Yes.
Okay. So I guess we have a resolution on the floor. Can I call for a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Supervisor Strauss, Supervisor Stepler, thank you very much. Opposed? So moved.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. Was that motion for both positions?
No, I didn't go on to fill the cleaner yet, but I guess we could have, but we'll move on to an intent to fill the cleaner position.
I'll make that motion.
So this.
All right, wait, Supervisor Wild.
I second.
And Supervisor Sepler, thank you. Go ahead. Sorry.
So this is a position for a cleaner. Here's an example of where we just lost a cleaner to the town of Lake George because they're going to a daytime job, and two is that they're making more money working for a town. One of the things I was going to talk about in DPW as well as I talk about it in here is we are losing a lot of people to better paying jobs. This past year, I think I've lost 2 to other town, or now 3 to other towns. And then one of the individuals that I hope to replace in DPW has actually gone out on his own because he can make more money on his own. So that's what we're experiencing. I know it was said earlier, it's tough to hang on to people or to get people to even want to work.
So on to fill a position. Is there any questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Kevin, you don't want to call out the town?
No, I don't.
Sorry. Thank you.
Well, no, this is something, and this is, I probably did jump the gun on the custodian thing, but, this is something that we have to be concerned of in losing employees, like that. And I know, that, every job here is important at the county and keeping good people, because I know I've walked around in the halls and have thanked the cleaners in the past, and they kind of looked at me for doing a great job. And, they look at me and they're like, who is that? And one of them said, oh, that's Supervisor McGowan, so it's like, but, it is important, and we all rely on this. So I think it's something that we might, if the committee would like to, is, maybe look at the, at a schedule fee for the cleaner so we can hang on to someone. If that's something that the committee would be interested in doing, and to pass it to.
Yes.
So we'll put that on for discussion item maybe for next time. Does that sound fair?
How about right now?
Mr. Chairman,
Well, we can do it right. Yes.
that's got to be part of the union negotiation discussion, and we have restarted those conversations with CSEA.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. So we don't need to do anything right now?
I'd recommend we see how the conversation goes with CSEA.
Okay. Well, under our recommendation of our county administrator, we'll put that one on hold. So thank you very much. So moving on to discussions, how about a great court update there, Kevin?
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Sorry, you need to.
Oh, I
vote
need
on
to call a
that.
vote. So all in favor of filling the position for the cleaner, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. All right, now we'll jump on to discussion items on the wonderful court update.
So the contractor's been working in there for probably a better part of a couple of months now. We're very close to having Judge Offerdew and his clerk as well as his secretary completed. And they're also completing the jury deliberation rooms at the same time. I have pictures of those. By no means is this Judge Offerdew's bathroom. When you take a look at it, it's the jury deliberation room bathroom.
Thank you for clarifying that, Kevin.
So they're moving along fairly quickly. In fact, we believe they're ahead of schedule. There's been a few change orders here and there, minor at most, or minor for most of them. But it's the fact that we're doing rehabilitation that we're going to run into those change orders. There's just some conditions that are unforeseen. And we've run into a couple of them, but contractors worked well with us. And as I said, they haven't been significant by any means.
All right, thank you. And I can understand with those changeovers, especially with a building of this age, and so many times that we've done little improvements or renovations here and there as we've gone over the years. A lot of things can get hidden behind walls that we don't really know about. So thank you. Moving on to refuel some pending items. We have discussion to continue regarding the changes of the concrete area in the front entrance. Are we on that one, Kevin?
We're not doing anything. This again we will not start anything with this until we get done with the core project.
Okay, I thank you. And then I do have to say that the group of supervisors, myself, Bruno and Bramer and Kevin, and anybody else who may be interested, we did take a walk through with our over at our jail with Frank Morehouse to see what we could possibly do over there. And it's a I'll be honest with you, it's a little airy. It kind of looks like a crossing between one of those ghost series on TV as you walk through there and you look at some of the different graphics on the walls and the paintings, and you can kind of see the history that's been in that jail.
Maybe you should run it out as a movie set.
Well, that's a possibility, and I guess they could pay for the cleanup too. But Kevin and I, we've talked a little about it, and it's something to move forward. We're going to work on getting some numbers of really what it would cost to clean it up, but really what we can do. We're kind of limited what we can do in there unless we can come up with some out of the other pocket ideas. But Supervisor Bruno?
Yeah, Kevin, didn't we have, or do you have estimates from a few years ago or something? We did talk about that.
Sure. We have estimates. I believe a demolition was somewhere in the range of 800 to 900,000. And that was probably back 2010, 2011. We also have a hazard or asbestos report in there. There is lead-based paint. There is asbestos in there. The heating system in there is poor. In fact, it's poor to the point that it's creating a moisture. We've actually shut the heat off out there. It's creating a moisture problem inside that area. For the asbestos removal and the lead-based paint, again, back in 2010, 11, it was probably somewhere in the vicinity of about maybe 80 to 90,000. Today, it's probably going to be close to 150,000. So I'm working with Clark Patterson on kind of updating those numbers and finalizing those numbers for that area.
Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Bruno, for the question, and Kevin for answering. No, so that's, so really, those are what I think we should wait for, is to get those two numbers back. But, you know, if we're talking $1 million to tear it down, or 150,000 to, you know, $180,000 to clean it up, those are what we have to look at and really see what we can do. What we have is a low ceiling height over there, for one. So, you know, whatever we do, we'd have to, you know, upgrade the heating and be able to get heating and this and that. So, you know, it's going to be some creative ideas if we want to keep it to expand over there, what we can do and how we can do it, are all the things. So if anybody wants to go over there and has some creative ideas, you know, please let us know. And Scott or Kevin would be more than happy to take us for a spiel. I know Scott's dying to get back over there because he just has not too much to do in this new position, you know. So.
Definitely.
But have you been in, Scott?
Yes, I have been in through, and there is quite a bit of, as you say, moisture that's going out throughout that whole building, as well as the lead-based paint is starting to peel off, and it is the 1960s prison. That's what it's built for, and that's what it actually is there for. So there'll be a lot of, I should say, renovations that would have to happen for anything to be used in that facility.
Yes.
Hey, Dan, wouldn't it make sense when the interest rate's so low to once and for all remove the building?
Yes.
I mean, that's the wisest thing to do by buying the interest rates being what they are, maybe borrowing some of the money and removing it. I mean, you're never going to make it what it is. I've been in there numerous times, and now it just keeps deteriorating by doing nothing. I mean, there was a time where we weren't financially halfway decent, but I would think that you could borrow money at a very, very reasonable interest rate and just remove the whole building and utilize the space eventually in the future. I mean, all those reports drove up the cost and drove up the cost. It's not going to change. It's just going to keep going up. So you're only kidding yourself by not doing anything. I would suggest that we talk to the treasurer. Actually, did talk to the treasurer about bonding some projects. And Frank, I don't know where he's going to go with that, but we talked about doing that last year, putting together some projects. That may be one that we should really do.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Supervisor Webb.
Kevin, that's a great idea. Supervisor Garrity. Kevin Hajos, what's the status of the building? If we were to leave it, just let it sit there, how stable is the roof? How long before we're going to have to be to the point where we need to take action?
Right now, you don't. I mean, there's no roof leaks. We don't have any problems with water coming in. The moisture that's coming in is just from the ventilation and the heating system in there. And it's just because of the age of the system. As far as deteriorating, collapsing, it's not going to. You could let it sit for a long time. But again, as Supervisor Garrity said, you let it sit and it's, you know, it still is deteriorating and it's going to just continue to do that. Again, we did shut off the heat because it was causing such a moisture issue in there to the point that it was, we didn't get to it yet, but there's probably some areas that have black mold in it that we didn't want to let it go any longer. The price that I gave for probably close to $1 million to remove that building is based on removing it all as hazardous material, meaning not mitigate the asbestos or lead-based paint in it, just knocking the building down and considering it all hazardous. That's why it's probably so expensive. Although Again, that was back in 2010, 11. It could be close to that number now, but I think if you mitigated it first, and remove the asbestos and lead base, you're probably looking at 150,000. Then add in another 600,000, give or take, for demolition. You're probably just demolition the whole thing as hazardous material and remove it that way. It makes more sense to me to do that and to remove it out of there. And you have a pretty decent slab underneath that, if we look to do something else, expand space at the county center eventually, you can work with the slab that's existing there today.
And just to follow up, do we have any need for additional space?
I think we always have need for additional space at the county center. Perfect example right now is Pam Vogel's record storage center is filling up quick. Although I think most files are going to the server, but she needs to hang on to her files for God knows 80 years or 70 years or something, whatever it may be. The public defender, Marcy Flores, as you know, came to us to look for some space down the basement to store some of her files as well. So we gave her some of the other areas that we were using for like maintenance areas that we could keep things in. So we're always looking for space at the county center. Marcy's still short on a couple spaces for her attorneys over there. So it could be expanding public defenders' offices down that way eventually. I'm not saying right away, but we're always looking for space around the county center.
And just one more follow-up, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Is this part of our infrastructure list that we have that we're building for countywide infrastructure pieces? And is there just one other question along with that? Is there any way to identify some grants that we might be able to get to make this happen? Or maybe it's through some of the COVID relief funds.
Yeah, there's probably not a lot of grants out there for demolition. I can certainly look for them. There probably would be more grants to possibly rehabilitate the space. But again, as Supervisor McGowan stated, the ceilings they're very low in that it's not conducive to use that for, say, office space or things like that. So there could be some out there, but I don't necessarily see a grant for demolition. Rehab, yes. Demolition, absolutely not. But I would most certainly look.
Thanks.
Well, thank you. I mean, this was a good moving discussion. I really would like to revisit. Supervisor Stroud.
Well, thank you. The cost of building materials has, gone up, 400%?
Yeah.
To replace that building with brick and everything would be millions of dollars. To replace a building like that. So I want that to keep in mind. The other thing to keep in mind is that storage. I know we here at town, we're running out of room for storage. And if we could rent some space at the county, for example, and I'm sure we're not the only town, probably the city, if it would be satisfactory for storage in there once remediated, that would be a great use. I mean, and there might be other things too that, I just think taking the building down, it would be a mistake because to replace it would be millions of dollars, especially at today's rates. So remediation seems like a pretty good deal, especially if we can use it for storage or other things like storage. Just my thoughts.
Thank you, Mr. Stroud. Supervisor Stroud, that does make some good points here. Basically, since we're talking it, and from what I see it in my creative mind, I know we have some offices that right as you walk right in that can be utilized. We have first and second floor, so we can expand over that way and still keep the jail closed off. On the ceiling heights and stuff like that, everybody's used to having the heat up above and in the ceiling and drop ceilings. But with the low ceilings, storage is a great idea. I thought of a regional area morgue. Supervisor Bremer brought up maybe an SPACA, dog pound, a shelter, temporary or whatever. So there's a lot of uses that we could go, and that's why I asked everybody if they could, maybe take a tour and kind of be creative if they can and get up some ideas. I like the storage ideas. So maybe what we should have Kevin do is maybe we should look into really the cost of cleaning it all up and see what kind of grants that maybe we can get, because really, to tear that down to a slab and wait until we need that slab to build something up and the cost of materials and everything. My concern would be leaving that slab exposed for so many years, with the freeze and the refreeze and the water. And, even though it's probably built a foot thick, eventually I think it could break down and maybe heave and crack, and then that would become useless. So, but I'd really like the input from everyone. And if, and maybe coming up with some creative ideas of what we can utilize that space with. So we'll leave that on our referrals and pending items to discuss in the future. Is that all right with everyone? Okay. So let's move. And any more questions on that? Oh, is that who's that up there? Kevin Hagel's got his hand up.
No more questions on that. I want to do a couple things this morning that I kind of thought about after the fact that I just wanted to make everybody aware of. Back in November, we created the work request program within Buildings and Grounds. I already had one for highway, but we didn't have one for Buildings and Grounds for all the work that the staff does there. So far it's been in place since November. As of this morning, we've done 450 work requests since November. So that's averaging about 100 a month. We still have a few department heads, their staff that still want to call over to Buildings and Grounds and schedule something that way. And Lee's been entering them in. So there's still a few that aren't using the program. I was going to send out an email this afternoon thanking everyone who has used it and to continue to get them to use it. But on that average, we're going to be doing in Buildings and Grounds anywhere from 1,200 to 1,500 requests a year of work for that department. So I just wanted to make everybody aware of that. And the last thing I had is, I wanted to do it in the beginning, but I'll do it now. Sitting next to me on my right is Scott Rogers. Scott Rogers came to us as our new facilities director. Scott's been in the job now for a full week, and we're throwing a lot of things at him. He's got big shoes to fill in Frank's shoes, but so far he's off and running, and he's doing a fantastic job. So if you get a chance, introduce yourself and say hi to Scott and welcome him aboard.
Welcome, Scott.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Kevin. Kevin, is there, along with that email sending out, or, Amanda, can we send out a reminder for everyone of the new process of how to put in the work orders? Because it's a lot easier to trace and have them and follow through and make sure they're completed and keep everybody on a happy page. And I know Scott has really asked for this, and that was one of his stipulations taking this job, is that they all follow the strict instructions of, but can we, is that something, can Kevin do that, or does that have to, can you send that out to all?
We can work together and get that taken care of.
All right, Kevin, you mind? Like I said, I just like to remind everybody, sometimes that, it's hard to break old habits, but I really agree with that program. I was happy you brought it on last year, and it's really worked up well, and it's a lot of work orders. And like I said, things at this age definitely have a tendency to need tweaking all the time. So, all right, is there anything else, Mr. Hajos?
That's it. Thank you.
Scott, any words of coming in and, I'll give you an opportunity to speak at the County Facility Buildings meeting.
I thank you very much. I appreciate it. I look forward to working diligently to get everything taken care of. The work order process is a very easy process, so it's just getting everyone acclimated to it. Frank has been wonderful so far. Granted, I've only worked with him for 3 days. He'll be in today, but he's taught me a lot, and I've had a lot of questions for him, but he's been very receptive, as well as Kevin and everyone that I've asked questions about. So I appreciate it, and I look forward to working with everyone diligently.
Well, ahead of the chairman of facilities, I would really like to welcome you. I had the opportunity to chat with you last week out there at the tree ceremony, and it was an honor and welcome aboard. And look forward to working with you and getting our county in tip-top shape and see what we can do with that jail. So,
Yeah.
all right.
Thank you.
Privilege of the floor. Don, do we have any comments?
Chairman McGowan, there are no comments on YouTube right now.
Well, thank you. So I guess we'll move right on to,
Mr. Chairman, I
yes,
have something. I'd like to bring back to the committee's attention the building that was proposed to be used for the Joseph Warren building. I talked to the historian there last Tuesday, and there's really not much they can do until there's some kind of an agreement or some forward progress here on that. And I think that's a excellent project, and I'd like to see it move forward. So I want to bring that up and hopefully put it on your agenda.
well, Frank, thank you. No, I think that the presentation we got there on, was a couple months ago on Joseph Warren, I think it's very important. So is that, I'd have no problem putting that on our discussion items or referrals and pending items to move forward. Meanwhile, should we put a committee together on this, or what do you think? How should it be handled? Kevin, any thoughts?
I don't necessarily think, and I could turn it over to Ryan in a minute, that we need a committee to put this together. I think that they're just looking to use the detention center building as well. Is that correct? And that we'd have an MOU with them for whatever it may be. I mean, I don't know the determination of whether we're still doing the maintenance on the building, whether they would be required to do that maintenance on that building.
I think preliminarily, I also spoke with the historian on Tuesday morning. I think preliminarily what they're looking to do is get into a similar agreement that they have for the building that they operate the Historical Society out of. And then we'll figure out more as we go in terms of how the county can partner on the project. Is that your understanding, Frank?
Yeah, I believe so. But we need to move somewhere or nothing's going to happen.
Well, I asked the committee, do you guys mind putting this on our pending and referrals to move this along and see what we can do to,
Mr. Chair, my question is, can we do anything today? It's easy to kick the can, but is there something
Well,
we
true.
can do today?
okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
At least from my perspective, I think what I'm going to do is myself, Scott, maybe Frank will go through the building, see if that building requires anything, needs anything at this time before they were to go move into it. We don't do a lot of maintenance on that building simply because no one uses the building. So I'd like to go in there, at least get my eyes on it first before we commit to anything. But there may be some work ahead of them going in there that needs to get completed first. And I just don't know what that work is. So I would say, yes, definitely move forward with whatever agreement they want to use it, but it may be some time for us to get that building up to shape so they can move in.
Does that sound like a plan, committee?
Yeah.
Strout?
Yes, well, thank you. Yeah, I think that's great. And I want to thank Frank for reminding us that we need to move in that direction. I am one of the people that helped initiate this whole Joseph Warren program. And as you know, for Warren County's bicentennial, I played the role of Joseph Warren, and I have many times since, and enjoy doing that. But I think it would be a great asset for the area to have a Joseph Warren Center. So I'm strongly in support of it, but I also wanted to give disclosure that I'm part of the process of trying to make this happen.
No, thank you, John, for bringing that up. And really, you really have been a strong supporter for a long time and really do appreciate that. So,
Mr. Chairman, if I may, just another question about timing. Can we create a resolution to give you authorization to move forward so we don't have to wait 2 months to come to a conclusion on this?
I'm not sure, Supervisor, what you're giving me authorization to move forward with. I'm going to go review the building right now. I think the authorization to move forward would be to come up with the county attorney for a memorandum of understanding that we would work out with the group who wants to use the facility. As far as me, I can go over there and take a look at what the building needs anytime.
Well, that's what I was going to suggest, if it's all right with the committee, is asking Kevin and Scott and Frank and them to get over there and assess the building and get that. And then really asking for our attorney, if that's all right, from our administrator, of moving forward with the MO to
An MOU.
an MOU to come up with an agreement. Is that something, an agreement there, Robert?
Yes, we can definitely do that.
Okay, is that all right from our committee?
Yeah, well, and just as a point of interest, 2025, when we would, it'd be nice to have this all completed and open to the public, will be the sesquicentennial for Joseph Warren's death, which was at the Battle of Bunker Hill, June 17th, 1775, just FYI.
Well, I'm hoping we can have that all wrapped up way before then, but thank you. I do remember that. Yes, Mr. Hadros.
The only thing I will caution everyone is, again, we haven't done a lot in that building for quite a period of time. I'm assuming there will be some work to do in that building. And that's a building that I do not have any type of budget for because we were not doing anything within there. So there could be a cost associated with this as well that I may not have in my budget.
Well, I think by working up a draft with our attorney's office and you getting over there, we'll put it on our pending items for our next committee meeting and see, hopefully you'll come back with a great report and say it's in tip-top shape. We're shocked of how wonderful, how well that older building has withstood over the years. And our county attorney department will have the MOU so we can move on. Does that sound fair, Frank? Mr. Straw?
Yeah, that sounds good. Thank you, Brad.
The rest of the committee?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there anything else that we need to bring to the committee today?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Conover.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention that it's important that these projects get put on the capital plan because, for example, if we do receive some funding, perhaps that displaces dollars in our existing budget that then can be used for other types of projects, even though the funding may not be eligible for a particular project, if you see what I'm saying. In other words, that we should be mindful of all of our capital projects so that we can correctly strategize going forward. I know Ryan Moore and our planning office is very cognizant of this, but we need to make sure we have a complete list. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Connor. That's very good advice. All right. And
Just one other thing, Mr. Chairman, if we could just make a referral to economic development, I think to make sure that gets on the list.
well, thank you, Supervisor Wild. So can we make a referral to the economic development to get this on the list to see what we can do? Is that all right with this committee?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Andrew, any questions sending this over to you? All right. Well, thank you. Any more? Okay, I'll go for a motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
Motion second.
Motion approved. Okay, thank you.